And it's official. We are here. Not that you care, but welcome to episode, we'll call it 83 of Cameron Flask. I am
Why not
here
just pick a
with...
number randomly out of thin air?
Oh, shut up. Come on. Uh, our fine friend Caleb Pike is off on a family trip, and I'm happy that he is. He's getting to spend some much needed time with them. And today, from Middle Europe, we have Mr. Ben Barden. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks, but I'm feeling a little self-conscious being this big. Normally I'm half this size when we have
Don't
the
say
pour
things
up
like
thing.
that. Don't say
All right.
things like that on YouTube. Okay.
We haven't even had a drink yet. Yeah,
We
okay.
have not had a drink. This is Cameron Flask. If you're new to the show, and based on the names that I'm seeing here, you are not. Shout outs to Baron and Rabbit and Shazam and Travis and Pat and Camille and Pat again and Travis and Shazam and Oliver and Pat again. I'm just looking at the chat. Come on, kids. Jay Go is in the house. Small Brown Fox. We haven't seen Grumpy Penguin in a while. David is here. Hello, IO Digital, Bill. If you're new to this channel, Sam's not new, Clay's not new, then subscribe to this thing. We're a lowly, low-count subscriber channel with some big names who occasionally show up in the chat. Exclusive. Andres is here. We're exclusive. We're an exclusive club of... what is going on? Wait, hold on. I haven't seen one of these. Something just showed up. Oh, come on. Here we go. Super chat, €5 from Camille. Love it. I need some more scotch, so that will go to good use. And you said it, for the booze. Miller time it is not. It might be Glenlivet time, but it's not Miller time. So what we do is we talk about gear. Sometimes we have gear challenges. Sometimes we have other crazy little ideas. But today is just to hang with my friend Ben, everybody in the chat. We're going to talk about cameras. We're going to talk about gear. We're going to talk about food. And we're going to talk about drinks. And it's just conversation. So there is no real host. I just happen to be the one who's talking right now. And Ben's going to cut in. And it's going to be, hit the like button. It's going to be drinking time. Ben, what are you drinking today on episode 83?
So this week, honestly, there's just nothing left in this house. I'm really scraping the backs of the cupboards to find anything to drink.
Yes.
So what I have found, the most palatable thing that I could find is, come on autofocus.
Yeah, there we go. Ooh.
There we go. So I've drunk this on here before. This is Fernet Stock Hrushka, which is kind of some pear alcohol.
Okay.
It's pretty good. It's quite nice. I'm going to just have that over a little bit of ice, and then I really do need to go shopping and stock up on whiskey and other good stuff. So that's what I'm on. What are you drinking this week?
Tony's having a Whistle Pig. That's a nice pour. I like that. I am drinking at a great value at my local North Liquor store. The Glenlivet 12, but it is a double oak, coming in at a very reasonable $45 US, or should I be more specific, $44.95. And drinks very nicely. I do like it when Scotch is aged in oak. I don't know what double oak means, but maybe it just means it's extra oaky. And on top of that, probably a little gimmicky, but my dad sent me from Scotland, it's source water. So there's one water from the Highlands, one from Islay, and one from Speyside. And when you're drinking your scotch, you actually, again, I would never buy this for myself, but he bought it for me for my birthday. You put some drops of that into your scotch from that region, and now I'm putting actual Scottish water into my drink. It's a bunch of BS, but, God bless the company that did it. Huh?
I was just going to say, you've got to admire the balls on some people. Set up as you go. It's Peckham Spring. For anyone in the UK, who will know the reference for Peckham Spring. It's a thing from Only Fools and Horses. But brilliant. You got to admire the entrepreneurial spirit there.
Hey, and the Scots are entrepreneurs, and I'm sure that there's some bloke over there just saying, Jimmy, go get the bucket and get me some of that water over by the river or by whatever it is. I'm just telling you, that's probably all they're doing. I'll
I think
probably
it's
catch a
probably
disease.
it's probably some guy in New York
In
fishing it out of the
Brooklyn.
Hudson.
Yeah, it's in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's probably in Brooklyn, out of the Hudson River. Shazam is on the iPad in the coffee shop. We got some Irish gunpowder gin here.
Gin.
Magnificent,
Oh, nice.
yeah. Drumshanbo. Wow, okay. Woodford Reserve wheat whiskey with a splash of Coke and a lime. I'm having some local brewed Feist beer. Oktoberfest started last Saturday, but only in our hearts due to the emergency. That might have been a word I would have used for this whole thing a while ago. Emergency. I think we are now into the apocalyptic catastrophe. But yes. And who is that's gloriously pretentious. Darren says, welcome, Darren. And Jay goes on Jura next week. I'll take a water.
Take a bottle. Take a bottle. Sell it.
You're on Jura? Oh, I love Jura. I love Jura Scotch. Okay, so cheers. Let's do this and have a little bit of whiskey. I have not had a drink in many a day. Let's go. Cheers, everyone. Here we go. Delish. Cheers, Harrison. It's not a smoky sweet one, but man, that Highland water just changes the profile completely. Yeah, there we go. Ridiculous. Okay, so we have no plan, everybody. So the whole idea today, besides that beautiful super chat that we got, is that we're going to get some stuff going on in the chat. If you have a question, you want to make a comment, and you want us to start talking about it, it can be about beer, it can be about scotch, it can be about food, favorite foods, regional. We don't care what it is. It can be about equipment. Whatever it is, just put an at the C47 before your comment, like Shazam did. Can't wait for the Canon C70 tomorrow. What's that? I've never heard of that. Pat's got a lot of Highland water. If I want it, send it over. So C70, the rumored name of a new camera. By the way, if you're on YouTube sometimes, you might want to stop into the new Shooter channel tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. There might be an episode dedicated to this new cinema camera. There is. That's in the description. And we will have a guest who I am speaking with in about an hour to get them set up for that episode. And they have actually used this camera that will be released tomorrow, which will be released on the Canon Vision platform at 2 p.m. Central Europe Summer Time. Is that how we say it? CEST. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's it.
Good.
That's it. And I'm on a job from exactly that time tomorrow, sadly.
When the new Shooter thing? But what about earlier when the actual launch happens?
When the launch happens. Yeah. But, so I might have
new Shooter.
Phone with me.
But you might be able to make the new Shooter thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's later on. I'll be able to come to that.
All right. 360 grad. Most useless gear you guys both and never used.
Good question. I never used at all. Oh.
I've always tried. Even if it's useless, I use it. Yeah.
I've normally bought things specifically for a job. And then I found it's not worked as I'd like. GoPros, any GoPro.
Same, yeah. It's like a week, and then it goes into a shelf or into some bag. Yeah.
I hate them. So you buy one for a specific job, for a specific task. Then I realized that I hate the image of it. I hate the way that they work or don't work, or that they just shut off halfway through a shot with no way of telling you. I just hate them. So, yeah, that I would say.
For
sure. What else? What else?
For me, it is GoPros. It's this is a little I would say maybe ironic's the right word. It's sliders, and then last
Yeah.
night I just ordered another slider
Okay. Well, I'm going to do
because
exactly the
B&H.
same thing.
Yeah,
Gimbals, because I always had the Ronin M. So I bought that when it was first released. It's
yeah.
heavy. It's a pain in the ass to use. I was never very good at operating it. Jago's great at operating it, and then we work together a lot. So I just figure he'll get good stuff with that. I don't need to bother. It sits in my bag. I take it out on jobs, never use it because it's going to take me time to balance the thing, get the thing out. And then I bought that Weebill S, and I've used that on every job since I bought it a month
Well,
ago.
that's funny you say that. So the original crane. So I had a pilot fly. I was like such a
Yeah.
pain in the ass to get it going, and so that just went. That's in the shelf. And then I got the crane, and I loved it. It was like it just balanced, boom. I used it on a bunch of stuff, and then it sort of just stopped being used. But ever since I've gotten the Weebill S, I use that thing all of the time. And what I just ordered was there it is. I just ordered the Micro 2 slider. It's very similar to the Edel Krone, but not
Yeah.
from Turkey. Looks like it's from Asia, and it does that weird slidey thing. But every
You mean,
single
like with the
where it
the
extends, yeah, it's 13 inches, but it'll extend to 21 inches of travel. And what's interesting about it is like every single review says it operates like a motorized gimbal in terms of the bearings and everything. It's super, super, super smooth. If I don't like it, I'm sending it right back to B&H. But to be honest with
How much
you,
was it?
it was on sale, their deal of the day, for $149. I was like,
Oh, okay.
$149. If I can throw that in the bag and start to use it, then that'll be good. If it was, $300, I wouldn't have touched it. And they have motorized versions. I just want a little thing I can pop up on a little portable tripod. I can do some tiny little things here and there. I don't know. I'm probably going to regret this purchase, but I'm just saying I have other sliders and other things, and I just don't use them very much. Yeah.
But I believe that one is probably the most useful format because in the same way that the Weebill actually fits in a pocket on the side of my camera bag rather than having to have a whole separate case for the rest of it, that Edelkrone style slider I nearly bought as well. Again, for a specific job, but I was having to travel really light, and it just seemed to be the best solution as in terms of being something that would actually come out of the bag every now and again rather than just gathering dust in the cupboard. So, all right, I'm very interested to see how you get on with that.
Yeah. And then Darren, Weebill S with a crappy off-brand Airy Trinity on a glide cam. Yeah, you're making like a poor man's Trinity. I don't know if, Darren, you're the one who made the video or you've just seen that video, but there's some cool content out there with people doing that on their YouTube channels. And again,
I haven't seen that.
We're lame. I mean, we're the creators. I haven't even hit 8,000 people. Who cares? It's fine. So Shazam's was the Ursa. I'm assuming you mean the original Ursa, but what is the Scion? The Scion, AJA Scion, that is the paperweight. That's a doorstop of cameras.
Yeah, but the difference between the two things I feel is that no one bought that camera. A lot of people bought the Ursa. Yeah. I don't know anyone. I've never spoken to anyone that owned that camera. Yeah. I've spoken to press people who had test copies, but I've never spoken to anyone that bought it. The Ursa was sold on a lot of promises which were never fulfilled. And in terms of the interchangeable lens mounts, the sensors, all that sort of stuff. And I also had that camera. And first off, the image off it was amazing. But the weight of it was just insane. It was, in terms of things that you just aren't going to take places unless you really have to, it was just ridiculous. Absolutely.
Well, the first year that it was available at NAB, And if you don't know what NAB is, it was, I'm just going to say past tense now, it was a big trade show that happened in Las Vegas in April.
Once
It
upon a
might be a
time.
trade show that happens in October in the future. We don't know. But the reality is, there was a lot of coverage at the show. And they gave them to News Shooter to use as their cameras for all of their bits when they ran around. And I would just walk around and see all my friends from News Shooter, and they were carrying them. And when you have something that's so heavy that you either have to switch hands like every 10 paces or you have to put it down, they had to do both of those. And I just see them putting all their stuff down in their original Ursa down and just having to wait to get their composure. I mean, not everybody's jacked like Matt Allard. I mean, Matt Allard is like, he's built. That guy lugs an Alexa or actually an Amira around, and, he's used to that. But, man, that Ursa was a beast of a camera. Didn't they have like a special where if you gave it in, you got like, it was like some ridiculous thing. You could turn it in and get huge credit towards your next camera. I don't know.
Did they ever do that? There were so many people that were very annoyed that they bought it on the premise that they were going to be able to upgrade it. They were going to be able to put the latest sensors in.
I think they did. I think they did like a trade-in. No, but I think they did a trade-in program, and it was actually a pretty aggressive trade-in program. And I would want to get rid of that thing. I mean, I don't even think you could have used that. I don't think that would have made our backpack challenge last week. I think you could have put an Ursa in there without a battery, and you'd still be overweight, probably.
Yeah. It was just and this was the thing with a lot of the Blackmagic early cameras, that they were very sensitive to cards. You'd have two identically spec'd cards from different manufacturers. One worked, one didn't. There was all that kind of stuff going on. Beautiful image, and it kind of set them on the right path. But I think people that spent money on it at the beginning, I think, got a little burned. But
Shazam saying that they let people trade in the OG Ursa for the new Mini, but not the 4.6K version.
Okay.
Which makes sense. All right. Hey, 6-string, Brian. I miss NAB too. I really do. Yeah. And I miss it for very different reasons than maybe some people do. Really, if you're working a booth, you don't miss NAB. But if you get to have the community, then you miss it. It's the big thing. We're trying to keep it positive today, kids. Okay?
But I'm happy that they have announced October as being a potential date. Not potential. They've confirmed that October's happening. We obviously don't know where the world's going to be in 12 months' time, 13 months' time. But for me, it's great. I'm very glad they've announced it for October, because if they'd announced it for April, I'd have gone, well, that's just pie in the sky. There's no way that's going to happen. By October, another 6 months on, there is a good chance that this whole nonsense may have started to be sorted, and that gives me some hope, something to look forward to. I missed it so much this year, because obviously this got cancelled really at the beginning of all of this, and I'd saved up loads of air miles. I got a business class seat, so I was going to come out. We were going to be working together for the 3 or 4 days, and it's always cool because we hang out. We always go for this amazing dinner or the first night, and we just it's just cool. That's the whole thing. It's nothing to do with the exhibits or anything else. It's just going and hanging out with you and Caleb and all these other people that we don't get to see very often. And I just love it. And it's the kind of, to me, it's this beautiful end of winter and into that nice positive part of spring and summer. So this year, on top of everything else, it was a real kick in the teeth not to have been able to do that.
It was awful. Awful.
Yeah.
Bill,
October will be a different dynamic. It'll be good. I mean,
we'll see. I mean, if it happens, I'm going to be there. Devin Graham GlideCam used it for 2 shoots, and now it's collecting dust. Yeah, I mean, I learned on the GlideCam. I actually learned on the Smooth Shooter, which was really the first affordable vest, arm, and sled system, because everything at the time from Steadicam, now they have more affordable options, was so expensive. And the Smooth Shooter was about $2,500 US for the whole thing. And so, I shot a lot of content with that, especially in Scotland when I did a concept for a travel show. Yeah, Caleb's got some good videos up on new cameras. He dropped one on the A7S III this week. Michael has 3 Rotolite Anovas stashed in storage. Yeah, I can
Right.
see that.
So,
Yeah.
and generally Rotolite stuff. Now I
Yeah.
had some contacts that were working there, and I got to borrow a few fixtures, and I like the build quality is great on them, but like for the size of them, every one I had, they just don't put out enough for the bulk. And it
No.
was just every time you go, oh, well, I can't. You get this great big fixture, and you go, this is great. Well, I can do a book light with this or something. And then you go, no, I can't.
Nope.
It's just
No.
not. It's
The
just
new
not got the
one,
grunt to
the
it. The
Titan,
new
that
one,
looks
the
amazing.
new one,
That's
that's
expensive.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
a
is.
real light. Yeah. But
Yeah. All right.
well, we got Harrison. Best piece of gear you have bought, not a camera. And everybody in the
Okay.
chat, get your asses like in gear here, and some of you are chiming in, but we have 34 amazing people here, not 334. Oh, sorry, 33. I offended somebody.
If they
but
disliked as well on their way out.
probably, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's us, Ben.
We
What do
normally
you
get one each
expect?
week. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
we at least get it. We at least, I mean, and we can't. It is camera and flash, so we're kind of like we have to kind of give somebody an out and say they just drank too much potentially, and that's why it happened.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
We're going to answer that one, but Film Convert, have you guys had a chance to check out Cine Match? I'm dying to, by the way. And I do use Premiere. We're using it on a big project right now, but I'm not generally a Premiere editor. I'm really a Final Cut
I
Pro
am.
10 person, and I could do some stuff in Resolve. In fact, I just upgraded to Resolve Studio. I really want to check out Cine Match. So just in case you don't understand what this is, and I'm going to go back to the best piece of gear you have bought, not a camera, and I don't actually have an answer for you, but I'll try to come up with something, and so will Ben. So you guys have heard of ACEs potentially, or at least you've heard that term, right? And so the goal of ACEs was to equalize. So you've got somebody shooting on an Arri Alexa, you got somebody shooting on a C500 Mark II, you've got somebody, I realize there's a 2-up, you can't even see my hands, I'm like a tiny little sliver on the thing, giant head, but a tiny sliver. So you basically, with ACEs, you're trying to equalize. You're saying, okay, we understand that the sensors, and the cameras cannot be equalized completely because of bit rate, data rate that they're recording. Some are going to be 10-bit 422, some are going to be 10-bit 420. Some of them are going to have wider gamuts, some of them are going to have a narrower gamut. But the idea is that if you are shooting with different camera systems and you go through an ACEs workflow, at a certain point in the post-production process, you're basically equalizing to as best as you can so that the image that you start to work with from each of those cameras is matching as closely as possible. My guess is that you're always dumbing down to the lowest common denominator, because how couldn't you, to an extent? But it's not like you're losing information from those original cameras, but you are trying to get them to match in a way that you can work with them. So Cine Match is kind of that idea, but for us. This is not a Hollywood, let's have this on a set going to post workflow. It's a plugin that when you're working with multiple cameras, you're essentially able to match those cameras because they have profiled each one of the cameras that they keep adding to and keep creating profiles for so that you can equalize.
Yeah. So I've used nitrate for I think I bought it in November or December, and when they had the sale on, and that's been fantastic. So again, being able to match cameras, and that's film emulation software, but it's bringing multiple sources in, mapping them to a common point, and it works very well. So I'm really excited to try the Cine Match as well.
Yeah, and quick question for Film Convert. Did I F up that description, or will you buy that as kind of a general description of what the goal of this plugin is? You tell me. I won't be offended. I have thick skin. So we're getting some best gears in here. What do we got, Ben, reading from the chat? Any?
So, but best gear. So Darren saying best gear for me was either the Rode Video Mic NTG, which I nearly bought today. I might do tomorrow, but I never just I need to have a day hovering over the purchase button.
Quite
Or
happy
Aperture
with
MC. Yeah. The Aperture MC again massively. I don't have that, but I have a similar fixture from a different manufacturer and use an awful lot. What else have we got? Quite a few people talking about.
What
the
about
MC.
Baron? Baron has Falcon Eyes 27-inch edge lit LED light. Elgato cam links, yeah. Deity S Mic 2 shotguns. Too many choices. That's funny. Cam link is a little clunky for me, but it was the beginning of this. I have to say that at least recently, without question, non-camera related, two of the best purchases are basically, A10 Mini, no question, A10 Mini Pro. I mean, that is probably a huge one. And a lot of it has to do with light modifiers for me. Modern studio equipment, Matthews, studio equipment, those companies, and having 4x4s and floppies and the stuff from, Westcott and those things are all things that they like play in every single job. But I would say that one of the most important things that I use that kind of changes everything are auto polls. Auto polls are so useful. Can we get a link to an auto poll in the chat? Just go to B&H. It's basically a vertical poll that pressurizes to your floor and your ceiling. And
it's basically something that you can probably buy the same thing for about half the price that holds lintels up when they're building houses. It does exactly that.
Yeah. But
it's a pole that wedges itself against the floor and ceiling.
Yes.
And then you strap cameras, lights, whatever to it.
Anything to it. But the nice thing about it is when, and many of us are working in small spaces, it has a very small footprint. And so right now what I'm doing is I'm helping my client set up remote studios for remote talent. And it's all green screen work. So instead of, having light stands on either end going into people's doorways and everything, I put an auto pole on one side, an auto pole on the other, a crossbar between them with J-hooks, and then we basically, hang the green screen, foam back green screen. So it's huge. Westcott Rapid Box switch is great because you can switch that off. All kinds of stuff. Wait, what's going on? There's so many comments here now. Love it.
I know. It's
Nanlite Forza versus Aperture. Okay, you didn't put in at the C47, Tony, but I think we could talk about that. Yeah. Oh, Clay, I will try it when they have a Final Cut Pro 10 plugin as well. But let's ask Film Convert, who says that's a good and accurate description. Thumbs up. When there might be a Final Cut Pro 10 version. Come on, kids.
There's a roadmap. There's a roadmap on their site as to versions that are coming. I believe.
They're in New Zealand, right? I'm pretty sure they're in New Zealand. Aren't you in New Zealand?
I didn't know that.
I think you're in New Zealand. Let me know.
Good morning. Yeah. Okay.
Well, good morning. Go ahead.
The non-camera best purchase would be my Aperture 120D from Clay Birner. I also have that light. Probably the best money I've spent in the last year, I would say, on gear. My other one is my Miller DS10 tripod. Not absolutely perfect, but the head particularly is amazing, and it just gets bashed about. And I was talking to someone here, and obviously rates are way lower here than they are in the UK. I'm in the Czech Republic. And I was talking to a guy that I was filming with a couple of days ago, and he was going, how much was the tripod? I told him, and he was going, you spent that on a tripod? Yeah, like 10 years ago or however long ago it was. And it's been back for a full service because it got damaged through user error, not me, someone I lent it to. They rebuilt the head entirely, and it was well out of warranty by this point, and sent it back with a new base, with a new plate as well. Didn't charge me a penny. No, that thing is going to last me my entire career.
Yeah, that's
I
how
would
I
say.
feel about the Miller CX heads that I have now.
Yeah.
I finally stopped mucking about, and I was just buying this head, mix and match on the sticks, and I finally just worked it out, and now I'm on the Miller CXs, and it's night and day, and
Yeah.
take it to the beach, shoot, do this, and I know that at any time, and I mean I am fortunate that I know people at the companies too, but um, they're like that kind of company. You send it in, and they guarantee their stuff forever, basically.
And it's one of
Yeah,
those things that spending $1,000 plus on something that's not a camera or a lens or some shiny thing with batteries, but it kind of smart. It really does.
it
But
does.
probably the smartest money I ever spent.
Yep, hard pill to swallow initially, but
Yeah.
it's so much less expensive. Plus, what you get out of that in terms of performance is totally different. Yeah, I just think there's good tripods are like great lenses. You're making an investment for basically a lifetime. That's what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember the
Absolutely.
504 HD from Manfrotto, and this is not Manfrotto bashing.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting head because besides the fact
I
that it
had
looked like
one.
an American football, it was actually probably the easiest fluid head to balance a camera on. You could throw a camera on there, and in about 15 seconds, you had it balanced. It didn't basically matter. But 12 months later, it got a little crunchy, and the performance of the
And
head started to change. And yes,
all the teeth on all the adjusters. So if on the handle where you then
yep,
have like the rosette that then comes in,
yep, yep.
teeth on that absolutely like flat in 2 years of use on those. It's just, and the fluidity on them, it's not, you can use them, and I haven't used a Manfrotto for a while, so there may be new ones which are amazing, but my experience always was that if you were doing a pan, you could never use the beginning and end. You could, if you cut in on your edit to midway through, you were fine, but you could never
Yep.
get that smooth start and finish, which is that thing
Yep.
with the Miller, is that you can just go left, right with that the whole day long, and everything's
Totally.
just silky smooth.
DS10
Yeah.
is still one of my favorite heads. Not as easy to balance just because it has its own sort of, its own resistance and stuff. Miller, by the way, invented the fluid head, if you didn't know that. So hats off to Australia. Hats off to Wellington, New Zealand. There's a lot of smart people down there. Just saying. Who else? We have Rode down there. You've got Miller tripods. You have, of course, Atomos. There's one other company
Black Magic.
down there. Black Magic, a little tiny company. So representing for our industry in a pretty big way down in Australia and in New Zealand. There's at least one, maybe two other companies in New Zealand too. So yeah, no bounce. If you balance your tripod, huh? What?
Jago, my Manfrotto makes me sad every time I use it. Absolute turd. Get rid of it. Buy something decent. How many times do we have this conversation, my friend? Honestly. All right. Sorry. No,
Unbelievable. All right. So Shazam, would you recommend a 4K gaming PC for video editing or Mac?
That's what that. See that thing flashing behind me? That's what that is. That's what that is. So I'm going to talk about this one because I've done it. So the whole thing a few years ago, my Mac trash can didn't do what I wanted it to, and was again in the things of the shittiest things you've spent money on. That's definitely up there. Thankfully, I managed to sell it to some other idiot for almost not quite what I paid for it, but enough to make it not hurt quite as much as it did. And then I had this built by Scan in Bolton in the UK, who were amazing. They took me through it. You spec it up online as to the components you want, then they ring up and they talk you through all the decisions that you made about the graphics cards, the memory, everything, processor choice. They talk through what software you're running on it, the whole thing. So the service is brilliant. And then they're actually sending you photographs while they're building it of the components all stacked up, everything going in. They were great on the warranty. They shipped it all the way to the Czech Republic, and that thing's really heavy. And I had a problem in the motherboard died 1 month before the end of the warranty period, and they replaced that and a whole load of other stuff with a much higher spec one, a much higher spec processor came back with it. So can't recommend those guys enough for a build. If you're doing something, talk to them. They'll talk you through the whole build. Obviously UK, and they'll ship in Europe as well. It's brilliant. Power wise, it's fantastic. Value for money, it's incredible. I spent about £4,000 on that. I've had it for 3-4 years. And the great thing over Macs these days is that it's very easy just to go, oh, we'll bump the graphics card, unless we're talking about obviously the new Mac Pro, which is in cloud cuckoo land money wise. But it's very easy just to incrementally bounce the performance of that with RAM upgrades, processor upgrades, whatever else. I highly recommend that route. It's been a brilliant machine and continues to be.
Yeah. I've got no problem. We've got 5 editors working on the project right now. 2 of them are PC based. 3 of them are Mac based. That's all Creative Cloud. I am the type of person who has always used a laptop, and I'm just wired that way. Even the idea of having a separate docking and having a separate screen, it just doesn't compute with me. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just the way I'm tuned, and I just pick that thing up and I just go somewhere else in the house or whatever it is. Your smirk is just bothering me. It's okay though. So I'm not recommending.
No, I'm not.
What'd you say?
Right.
What'd you say?
No, I'm no,
take the
fine.
piss.
Go.
No, I'm ready.
I can't. No. It's too filthy. I can't. No. It's really bad. Even for this show, I can't go there. Go on, carry on.
Okay, please don't.
I'll tell you later what you said. I'll write it down. Yeah, go.
I'm gonna have a little bit of my Highland water just to take a little break for that and let this reset. Okay. It's a MacBook Pro for me, and it doesn't need to be, but it works well. One thing, can I have a little bit of a stitch and bitch here? It's a brand new 16-inch, I guess it's the 2020 MacBook Pro. I hadn't bought a computer in 4.5 years. Not that I use it, but it has the shittiest webcam you can possibly imagine. I think it's 720p. It's the noisiest piece of garbage ever. When you buy a laptop that costs $4,500 US, could they put a 1080p camera in it that is as good as a stupid Logitech?
This is why I just hate Apple these days, because they just pull this shit, charge ridiculous money. And I've had this rant before, but it's just Apple's all changed. 20 years ago when we started using them, it was only all right. I'm not going to go down that whole rant again, but it's just
it's going to get ugly.
The whole thing is clearly now about Apple as a brand, and like it's great product. Obviously, it's very stable. It's all made by the same people, the software, the hardware, which makes things very stable. They don't really go wrong very much. The PC has stuff from lots of different manufacturers. It's clearly not as stable. But it's just so ridiculously expensive for the componentry that they put in. I don't buy it anymore. This laptop that I'm doing this show on right now is a 2014 MacBook Pro. This will be my last one. This will also be a PC, my laptop, next time. Man. I just cannot justify spending that much money for that fucking logo on the back of it.
Fighting words. If you cut in Final Cut Pro 10, you don't really have much of a choice. And I'm not saying you have to cut in Final, but I'm just saying, okay.
All right.
Ellie or Eli or Eli? I'm going to say Ellie or Eli. You'll have to correct me. Hey, anybody, know what's the deal with the Canon EOS R6/5 having really terrible codecs? ! Seriously, a 10K Mac Pro couldn't play 4K 60 frames per second footage smoothly. We get into a little bit of conversation about that. We got some reply. Can you still return it? Blah, 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 blah. Not my camera and footage, but I'm very interested in getting an R6 and we want to know about my computer. We'll be able to edit the footage. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. We're not talking about the heat thing. That's a whole separate thing. That's not the conversation. We're talking about codecs here, okay? Um, the reality is that anytime you are going to be editing in HEVC H.265, you're talking about some pretty intensive work for your computer. A lot of it is going to have to do with what platform you're editing in as well. I found that my playback issues varied greatly depending on what NLE I was using. I would say that DaVinci Resolve was probably the most favorable across the boards. And it was kind of a toss-up depending on what you were throwing at it between Final Cut Pro 10 and Premiere Pro. But it is a lot of processor stuff, and because certain programs are so graphics, or GPU intensive, if you've got a much older GPU, I think you'll run into issues as well, especially with an app like Final Cut Pro 10. The whole metal acceleration and everything. I didn't really have a big problem with the footage coming from those cameras on a new MacBook Pro, but interestingly, it's less intensive for your computer to work with the 8K raw footage, basically, than it is with a long GOP HEVC codec. So there's a lot of math and a lot of calculations happening, and if you're working on an older system, it can really suffer. So it really depends what year, how much RAM you have, what graphics processor. You're going to run into some issues.
Software. I mean, Premiere is the worst of the worst for dealing with this kind of stuff. I like Premiere in an awful lot of ways. I like the way it works, the user interface, the rest of it. But in terms of performance, so that machine behind me, I can put the same files into Premiere that just shits itself as soon as you start grading a project.
Yep.
With those kind of files, with IBP files, it just starts shitting itself. It's fine up to that point. 4K files, but then it really starts to grind down. Put that same stuff, those exact same files into Resolve on the same machine. It plays back absolutely full frame rate, no issues at all, full screen, and I can color grade it whilst it's playing back, and it doesn't bat an eyelid.
Yep.
I don't know why Premiere can't sort their shit out with the back end of that piece of software. It's been the same forever.
Why. No, I know why. They need to it's clear
it's building from the ground up, but it's
clear that Resolve has been around for a long time, but it's blatantly clear, whether they're advertising it or not, which they're not, that the engine that's sitting inside of Resolve has to have been rebuilt, because there's a big difference between what Resolve can do now and what it did even a few years ago, and there's no way that they're just building on that completely old code base. And Final Cut Pro 10 also tends to handle codecs very, very well. Is unbelievably, I think, almost 11 years old now, believe it or not, Final Cut Pro 10. It's at least a decade old. But it was rebuilt from the ground up. You might hate it, but it was rebuilt. And Premiere is still sitting, code from 1999 is still sitting in that box. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And the thing that I find slightly, my only reason for not using Resolve for everything, there are certain things that I really like the way that Premiere does in terms of the user interface. There's certain features within it, things like the image stabilization, that kind of stuff. It's really good. And the other thing, the reason I use it a lot of the time is because I'm working on a project with more people, and it's kind of a universal constant. More people seem to be using Premiere than anything else with the people that I seem to work with. So it's a very useful thing that we can all have the footage, we can all have the drive for the rushes on, and we can be just pinging project files backwards and forwards. Obviously, there's the collaboration, pay more on the monthly subscription thing with the cloud, and you can have all that more tightly integrated. But it works very well. The project that I'm working on at the moment, I'm doing this sort of travel stroke cooking show, which is a 10-episode thing. And the deeper into that I get, I've been cutting Premiere. Not that there's anyone else editing it, but there's potential for that to need to happen in the future. So I've been going, well, what's the kind of the constant, the universal standard? Really, Premiere is going to be the one, particularly here. And I'm I've done one complete episode, but done assembly edits for all of them that we've shot so far. I've got 3 more to shoot. And I'm going to switch over to Resolve. I was just crying
Well, I
last
mean,
week.
we have no choice on this new project because the client's whole workflow is Creative Cloud. So we're locked into Premiere, we're locked into After Effects. But the frustrations at the 11th hour when you're trying to take a project and export it and do all that kind of stuff is just a mess sometimes. But it's okay. And David says we need a swear jar tonight. I don't disagree, but what does that mean? If Ben and I swear, you give us a tip? That's okay with me. This is not for kids, so let's do it.
Well, last week's episode, we'd have earned a fortune.
Yeah, what the fuck? Let's go. I didn't say anything. Okay, so Darren's. We're gonna switch subjects in a second. I promise. But Darren says I can't get away with 100% Resolve because I do solo client work, but I really want Resolve to gain more market share so I can do group stuff. Yeah, that's the thing.
Exactly.
Adobe 2020 crashes daily. I'm usually 1 year behind for stability on the version. This was the advantage, though, at a price for the way Avid used to run their company. You had to be on a certified box and all this kind of stuff, but it costs a fortune. But then they controlled the ecosystem. All right, F this whole thing. I don't care about NLEs. That's a whole bunch of bullshit. Ding, ding. Let's talk about food because that's really what I care about. Let's talk about food. I got a pizza oven for my birthday. I bought it for myself.
Okay.
And it gets up to close to 500 degrees Celsius. So almost 1,000 degrees. Yeah, Fahrenheit. And I've been cooking some pizzas in there. And it's amazing. But I got a big enough one that I can do like cast iron and I can cook steaks and lamb and other things. So I'm very excited about this.
What's the heat source for this?
This one is propane. There are ones that are wood, or you can do pellets and other things. I knew that, knowing me, that Calabrian chili oil, Clay, that's like the spice of life. But my pizza sauce is very simple. It's San Marzano tomatoes with fresh basil. I basically take garlic, and you could do it in the oven, or you could just whack it in the microwave for like minute 15 seconds to soften it up so it's not as bitter. And then salt and a little tomato paste. And then you just blend it. So I'm not even heating it for the pizza sauce, but Calabrian chili oil. It's beautiful. All right, so we're back to the thing. It's propane because I knew that if I got something that was wood, I would build it 2 or 3 times, and I would say, this is bullshit. I'm not going to do this every single time. It's such a pain because I have to wait for it to all burn down, clean it out. By the time I'm done cooking pizzas, there's so much wine in me or beer. The last thing I want to do is wait like 3 hours to have to clean out a pizza oven. I want to turn the thing off and go to bed. Let's be honest.
Okay. So interestingly, this show
Small
that
Brown
I'm doing
Fox.
at the moment,
Of course I bought my own birthday present. I'm 49 years old. That's what we do at this age. We have an excuse to buy ourselves something, and whoever our partner is, if we have it, they can't say shit. That's it. That's your one get. I bought myself an electronic drum kit when I was 40 because I could. Just play that card if you're allowed to. I'm sorry, Ben. Go in.
Yeah, no.
It was important that I said that. Okay, go.
We did the same thing. So the show I'm working on at the moment, every time, so the premise is these 3 chefs each have their own restaurant in Prague. There's 2 Italian guys and a Vietnamese Czech guy. And they all have completely different styles of stuff. And we go somewhere that produces something. So it might be a meat producer. We go to a farm that does Wagyu beef, or it might be, we were at a vineyard a couple of days ago. So we did the travel element, we did a hot air balloon flight for this one, but they cook in situ. So we cook out in the field or wherever it is amongst the cattle each week. And they use these big green egg grills for everything.
Yeah. Those are amazing.
And they're fantastic. So it's charcoal, but you control the heat properly. So it has a vent on the bottom, but you also control the smoke content. So you've got a chimney, so you can close it off, smoke the thing properly. and you can do pizzas in the thing. They've got a whole range of cookware, of pans, of iron skillet things, all sorts of stuff that goes in it. I'm constantly amazed by what's coming out of what they're cooking with this fairly simple tool. I'm desperate for one now. And then I've seen how
They make
much
knockoffs. No, they make some good knockoffs of the green egg. Yeah. Okay.
They're sponsoring the show. They're sponsoring the show. There's no knockoffs. Buy a genuine one.
There's so much good. Okay, so many good things. So first of all, 360 grad. I'm using canned or tinned San Marzano, so they are pretty good. And you add the tomato paste, and you actually some people squeeze out the seeds, but I'm telling you, delish. I'm loving the way it's coming out that way. But tomato paste is the key. It puts a sweetness into it. It thickens it up a little bit. And I'm like East Coast Italian, where I'll make a sauce and it cooks for 3 or 4 hours sometimes. So, I'm digging that. Wingspan, by the way, yes to the, I have to get it, Njuja. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's basically a sausage-based, a pork-based, almost like a paste inside of a jar. And you add it to your pizza. And I've seen many videos about that, and I'm very excited that, yes, Ryan, I make my own pizza dough. In fact, this time I made it with a poolish, which is like a pre-fermentation. You do like 100% hydration, where it's like 300 grams of flour, 300 grams of, just to give you the base for 4 pizza, 300 grams flour, 300 grams water, and then you do 0.6 grams of like a dry activated yeast, and then you leave that overnight. It bubbles all up, and then you add the rest of your flour and water, and you make your dough the next day in the morning, and then you let it. It's like 3-step process, but it was delicious. I'm in 100%. What's this arthritis thing? What are we doing that? What? What is going on? David's throwing in the curveball here. I like tacos as well. Here we go. Oh, if you're in the States, go to Amazon, Spice Walla, and they have amazing spices. And you can do like a pork tenderloin, and you just put some, like a neutral oil, and the Spice Walla, like al pastor, carne asada. You could do it with some steak, and you marinate that for the day, and then just throw it out on the grill. Okay, sorry. What is David saying? I already had arthritis in that shoulder, so that's why it hurt. Oh, there's a conversation going on. Okay, good. Okay, good. What do we got?
Food-wise, I've got an interesting one right now because I've not been to the UK for a long time, which is now looking, because everything's locking down again here in Europe. Things are. But point being that it's unlikely I'm going to get back to the UK maybe this year at all. So the things that I miss, one, obviously my family. I haven't seen my mum, dad, brother, and sister, so I'm desperate to see all those people. Obviously, that's the thing that's really hurting, but there are 2 foodstuffs, because normally I travel there quite a lot, that I'm absolutely craving, that I just can't really find here. Good Indian food, number 1.
Ooh, yes.
Proper hot curry that gives me a food hangover for 2 days after I've eaten it, but is worth every single stomach cramp the next day is worth that stuff. That's the one thing. The other, which when I lived in the UK, I used to eat very occasionally and never really craved, but I'm desperate for fish and chips. And there are only, for those of you that are not Brits, fish and chips exists in pretty much every town in the UK has 2-3 chippies. Czech friends have been over. They go, I didn't really like it, but there are like 3 chip shops that I will have fish and chips from in the UK. There are more, obviously, but 3 that I know that I trust to be amazing. Normally, they have to be next to the sea. We know full well that the fish hasn't come from that particular little harbour or whatever, but there's something about the air that goes with it. The way that they have to cook it with the right fat, the right batter, it has to be done for the right amount of time at the right temperature, so you get the completely perfect crispy batter and the absolute just melt in the mouth fish on the inside. And I'm just desperate. Don't even
get me.
For it.
If you go to North Berwick, there's a place right there in North Berwick, and their fish and chips are just forget about it.
So Arnside. So I know we've got people from the northwest. There's a few that are in every now and again. Arnside fish and chip shop or Shap fish and chip shop, the absolute best. But Arnside, because you go sit on the beach and eat it every Friday. You're gonna have to queue for an hour to get fish and chips there. But then you walk across the road, you sit on the beach and eat them. Nothing better. It's amazing. And drink cider with the fish and chips. Is my
Ooh, a
top
nice
pick.
dry for me. A nice
Really,
dry
really
cider. It has to be
cider.
dry. It can't be a sweet
Yeah.
cider. You're effed if you do that.
Okay, now I've got another one that I missed because you get just crappy, sweet, sickly shit cider here. And again, just like nice Aspel's proper mega dry 7-8%. They sell cider here at like 2%. What is that? I don't know.
I don't even want to talk about it. David, recover from your one wheel. Stop watching those videos on YouTube. That one wheel is just a death trap. Get yourself one of the Segways that has the thing that you control between your knees. You'll live. Hey, Slavic, remember 4K for 4K? What about, stay with me here, what if the next cinema camera will be 8K for 8K? It'll be less than 8K. We already have the R5. But it'll be 8K for 4K. That's what it'll be. It kind of is already. We need to Zoom after the show. Again, I agree, Harrison, 1,000,000%. This week, I have to get on with our special guest from News Shooter tomorrow to get them genned into Ecamm Live and how it all works. Oh, by the way, it's been announced officially now, so I can say it. We're using the interview feature inside of Ecamm Live. Ben and Caleb don't have to go through Skype. They now can see all the comments in their web browser.
Right.
They have dark mode as of today, or Caleb doesn't, because hello Caleb, where are you? But yeah, exactly.
Can I just pick up on one small thing just before we move on?
I would love it if you did. Yes.
Can you straighten your glasses? It's driving me mental.
No, what you really want me to do is you want me to straighten my face, because one of the things that I have a problem with is my face is always on an angle.
No.
It's a combination. I know. No. Come on. Here. Yes, I can. I can straighten my glasses. I can straighten them. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I know. I did it on purpose. No, can I tell you why?
Right now.
Well, first of all, one ear is lower. One ear is lower than the other. The other thing is that they haven't been fixed and straightened in probably since the beginning of the pandemic. So
I had a pair like that for ages. That was was sitting for so long. No, like you had them right. You had it like.
I'm just doing it. I'm just taking the piss. Okay,
it's perfect. Now they're fine. They're fine. I can relax again now.
But because of
OCD.
Not that you have. You were getting OCD. No, you have OCD, and so do I. But I have to let things go. I've been getting up at 4:00 in the morning. I don't care. I could.
This was an easy thing to fix. This was fine.
Okay, listen.
Right, I'm gonna do the rest of the show.
All right, stop. All right, we only have 3 minutes left, and the reason I can't, okay. Do you wait? What's going on here? OCD squat? Yeah, let's do the OCD squat. I actually held a phone gimbal selfie stick while riding, and there were no problems, but the camera lens isn't wide enough to film yourself. Yeah, that's true. You got to get a wide enough camera. I fell like 14 times on the one wheel. Okay, let me just tell you something, David. And I'm just going to give you a little advice as somebody in their late 40s. You're not that age anymore, okay? I went with my son to the beach, and I got on a skimboard, and in about 3 seconds, my body went into 20 different directions. I stood there looking at the ocean and the sun for about 10 minutes while my friends behind me were wondering what was going on. I barely could walk back to them, and I took 2 Advil and drank 3 9.5% double-sized beers in order to get through that day. We just can't do it, brother.
No, that's true.
No.
And digital filmmaker, that's Number Wang. How do you know about Number Wang? Did you have that in the States?
He's from the Ukraine. They know about Number Wang.
Well, I know, but it was this Mitchell and Webb sketch that it was this game show that was impossible to decipher what the hell was going on, and they were just throwing random numbers out. They go, "That's Number Wang." It was very funny, but I'm just very surprised that reference has come out. Amazing.
He gets credit. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up. Beautiful people of the world, as Caleb would say, and very true to that. It's been lovely spending an hour with you. I hope there's something about Cameron Flask. Be careful, digital filmmaker.
I'm Pete.
Not right at the end of the show. Unbelievable. Oh, yeah. All right. So, could you wait out on your? Oh,
three,
can
I
wait? Oh, is he giving? Oh, good. Ah, beautiful. Good job. And with that, whiskey and OCD, I hope you get something, everybody, out of this show every week. If you do, tell your friends about it. They may watch it once and probably hate it. Tomorrow I'll be on New Shooter's channel with Matt Allard, Eric Naso, and a special guest who has shot with this new cinema camera from Canon that will be released tomorrow, or at least announced with the specs. And Ben, what would you like to say, final parting words to our fine friends in the chat?
I'm sorry about the light hitting this grey hair on my beard. That's what I'd really like to say. It's now. I'm now going to be very self-conscious about that. I'm going to go and play it out with Tweezer. So thanks 360 for that ruining my evening. No, really good fun tonight. This was great. This went very quickly. Looking forward to doing it all again next week when Jem straightens his glasses up. Okay, very excited about tomorrow as well, and seeing what's coming from Canon. So it'll be, I'm sure, lots for us to talk about again next week. Thanks again all for coming, hanging out, having a drink with us. Much fun as always. And as we all go back into lockdown, this again will go back to being my social life. So
exactly.
Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody. I'll be all buttoned up for New Shooter tomorrow, but next week on Wednesday we should have Caleb back, and we'll let loose and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of sort of the chat and this new camera from Canon. Chris, you missed. By the way, I scheduled it for 3 p.m. Pacific. When I went into YouTube, it said 2 p.m. in Ecamm Live, 3 p.m. I just chose 3 p.m. again, and it reset. If you know what that means, you know, come on. He comes in as the last comment. I got to say finish now because the Grumpy Penguin is here, and how could it not be the last comment? Nobody else posts a comment right now. You're out if you do. Grumpy Penguin, you better be in next week, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Beautiful. Thank you. We'll see you next week on Camera and Flask.